And our last group of candidates would be the circuit court judges. So if I could have all three of the candidates come up here to the chairs to my right. The first one that we are going to hear from is Mr. Ed Andrews.
First of all, let me thank you for having me here tonight, and it's a pleasure to be here. Again, as you know, I'm a candidate for the circuit court judge for Harford County. I'm a candidate because I think you deserve the most qualified, experienced judge on the circuit court. I am that person. I also believe that the person that sits on the circuit court should be your choice, and not the governor's choice, and not the choice of a handful of people in this county. Your choice, the voters' choice. And I think you should send the message to Annapolis that it will be your choice. This is all about you. This is all about the decision you must make. You're more qualified than anyone to weigh the credentials of the person that will be on the circuit court. By way of background, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I was born on a farm in the Shenandoah Valley, Virginia, between Winchester and Front Royal. I know what it is to work hard. I know what it is to bootstrap myself up. And I know what it is to be a police officer because I was in Washington, D.C., both uniformed and in plain clothes. I was a prosecutor in Baltimore City. I was the county council attorney in Harford County for 4 years. I represented the Aberdeen Police Union. I've had a civil and a criminal practice in Harford County since 1983 when we first moved here. I have a daughter, and I'm a brand new grandfather, and I have to put that picture. And there isn't much that I have not done in the way of law. I have the experience in life, I have the experience in law and life. I believe that my experience in the military, because I'm a Vietnam veteran, some would say with distinction, I can bring nothing more to the bench than these things, and it's your choice. You weigh the credentials. I have a handbill over here. It's much more detailed. Please review that. There's a telephone number there, and call me if you have any questions. I am the most qualified candidate, and I want to be your circuit court judge, and God willing, and the voters willing, I will be. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Up next, Mr. Steve Shinen.
Thank you. My name is Stephen Shinen, like the sun is shining. I first became involved in my community back in the 90s when I was treasurer for Joanne Parrott's campaign to become county council representative. I remained with Joanne Parrott throughout her county council career, through being president of the county council. I started off in my local community as secretary and vice president and president of my local community association. I then became president of the Greater Boston Association, which was comprised of 32 community associations. During my tenure as president, we took on ExxonMobil when they contaminated the wells of Boston, where I live. We were successful in getting ExxonMobil to close their shop and go away, and pay for all the decontamination of the wells through well monitoring. I've also been a firefighter in Harford County for 25 years. I was president of Boston Fire Company for 6 years. I'm currently on the board of directors of the Harford County Firemen's Association. I also represent Harford County at the Maryland state level on various committees there. I was on the People's Advisory Council for Harford County for 10 years, half that time as president. For those of you who aren't aware, that is a council for legal advice for people who come up against the big corporations, the land developers, where the individual can't afford an attorney. The People's Advisory Council provides them with a free attorney. I was involved in that. I was a member of the Community Planning Council when it was first formed by Eileen Rearman. I was on the original Planning Council for Boston. I served as on the Harford County Review Committee, a charter review, when we reviewed the charter, there again appointed by Eileen Rearman. So for all those years, I've been involved in the community. And I think the best way now to serve the community is to be a judge of the circuit court for Harford County. I do not take any contributions, any donations from any lawyer in Harford County, from any builder in Harford County. If I am elected to be a judge, I owe nobody anything. I can be independent and continue to represent my community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Elizabeth Bowen.
Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Bowen, and I am the sitting judge on the circuit court for Harford County. I was sworn in on January the 27th of this year. I bring nearly 3 decades of trial experience to the bench. It was my privilege to serve the citizens of Harford County as a prosecutor in the Harford County State's Attorney's Office for 29 years. I'm not sure that Joe is still here, but my boss during those years was Joe Castley, who was here until just a little bit ago. During my years at the State's Attorney's Office, I tried every kind of serious felony case in the circuit court for Harford County. First-degree murder, rape, sexual offense, burglary, kidnapping, every kind of the most serious violent crimes involving real injury and heartbreak for our citizens. My specialty was cases involving sexual and physical abuse of children. And if anyone here has been involved in law enforcement, I have seen some folks here that have worked with me for years in that capacity. Those cases are the toughest kinds of cases to try, anything involving a child witness. Out of my work with kids grew a real concern and commitment to improve how our courts deal with bringing children into court and giving them the opportunity to be heard. I was one of the leaders in the task force that created the Harford County Child Advocacy Center, which is a child-friendly unit which brings together prosecutors, social workers, and police officers to investigate sexual and physical child abuse cases. I also led the effort to create the court-appointed Special Advocate Program, which trains citizen volunteers to advocate the best interests of children in the juvenile court who are caught up in the foster care system and in need of a permanent home. During my years at the State's Attorney's Office, I also served as a supervisor for over a decade in the Circuit Court Unit and over another decade in the District Court Unit. And during those years, it was my privilege to work with and mold and mentor and lead by example young prosecutors who are continue to serve the citizens of this county. I also collaborated with the courts on a number of issues that improved the administration of justice for our citizens. Issues having to do with domestic violence, substance abuse, mental health, just to name a few. In my daily work as a judge, I try to be the kind of judge every trial lawyer wants to have hear his or her case. I do my homework and prepare for my dockets. I listen with patience and treat every litigant and lawyer with respect. I hear everyone out. I give careful thought to my decisions, and I have the courage to make the tough call. In my courtroom, the trial process is not about the judge's ego. It is about the hard work of the lawyers who are doing their best to present their case in an efficient and fair way. And it is about the very human stories of the people who come before me looking for a decision about matters which are of great importance to them. My job as a judge is to be the guardian of the process. It is my job by who I am and by how I conduct myself to demonstrate the integrity, the civility, and the fairness which each of us expects when we walk into a courtroom. Hold on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank our judge candidates. While we have them up here, because obviously our previous questions were more policy questions, I figured we'd open it up to the audience for maybe 2 questions if they're out there that folks may want to ask the judge candidates. And again, remember, it's a question that all 3 of them will be answering, so do not direct it at one particular candidate. Are there anybody out there with any questions? I know we have a couple lawyers. Larry.
I do have a question, and a lot of you talk about passion, and you really come from a good place when you talk about wanting to be a judge. I'd like you to take 1 minute, put yourself in the place of a serviceman that just came home from Afghanistan. They have traumatic brain injury, or they have PTSD. They get straight with the law. My question to you is, will you support in the state of Maryland and in Harford County of veterans who work to help these veterans? Thank you.
Well, because I am the sitting judge, I am not really in a position to address specifically what policies and programs should be put into place for individuals who are returning from service overseas. I certainly respect the sacrifice that they and their families make, but it's my job as a judge to view everyone, put everyone on the same footing when they come into the courtroom. But certainly, as a society, we owe folks who have served a debt of thanks, and to do everything that we can do to provide them the opportunities that they deserve when they come home and come back into our community.
Although the law treats everyone equally, it doesn't make distinctions, there is nothing to prevent a circuit court judge on their personal time from supporting various programs, particularly programs for someone that is at a disadvantage. There are lots of ways to resolve issues without a judge banging his gavel down. And there is nothing to prevent the judge, and some of the judges on our bench do that. They go out on their own time and they assist underprivileged people, so those cases don't come to court and the issues are resolved taking into consideration their disabilities. So in answer to your question is yes, I would support it. I would not be permitted to support it actually in the courtroom because I have to treat everyone equally under the law. But there's nothing to prevent me from going outside the courtroom and applying all of my knowledge and influence to help those at a disadvantage.
I can certainly appreciate your question, sir. I have been one of those returning soldiers. There was less available to us when I came home than to the servicemen today. With regard to a veteran coming before the court with those problems, I would certainly, as an individual, support any veterans court or system that would address their particular needs. In the current system, we determine guilt as a judge, we determine guilt, innocence, and then if there's a guilty finding, of course, we go to the sentencing phase. There's also a series of diversionary programs even before you get to that the sentencing phase. That's the latitude that a judge has to consider the particular needs of the defendant before the court. That's where the veterans certainly should be given consideration for what they've done, what they've been through, and you had to be there to know. And I know where your question is coming from. And I would support anything that I could in my capacity as an individual and in my capacity as a judge in the proper context of the case. How you begin that veterans forum or that veterans court, you have to rally the troops, to use a phrase, but something should be done. Thank you.
Any other questions that someone wants to ask?
There's a bill in Annapolis.
Again, as an individual, I would certainly support that in the context of that bill or law, should it become law. It's well overdue.
Any other questions that folks might have for our circuit court judge? Okay. With that being said,
thank you very much. Again, I appreciate it.
I want to thank, obviously, our judge candidates, but as well as, obviously, all the candidates who were here this evening. We are certainly, for them, we are in crunch time. We are certainly in the crunch time for the candidates, so obviously the club appreciates your time here as much as obviously you appreciate our folks being here as well. We're going to run through the business of our meeting fairly quickly this evening so that we can go ahead and allow the candidates who were able to stay to mingle and talk one-on-one with club members. So the first thing I will do is Rich, the Treasury report, please. Oh, Rich's time is apparently up.